Welcome to the Wild About Turkey Hunting podcast, a show for those who love the thrill of that first morning gobble, who love sharing the outdoors with a close friend, and for those who never want to stop learning about this awesome ritual we call spring turkey hunting. I'm Josh Davis, host and creator of the YouTube channel Davis Family Hunts. I'm wild about turkey hunting, and I bet you are too. Thanks for joining. Let's get started. Only 30% of hunters in my home state of Ohio were successful in the 2024 spring turkey season. That means that of the 51.5 thousand hunters who purchased a tag, a whopping 36,000 came home empty-handed at the end of the season. And there are 7 common mistakes that make the difference between tag soup or turkey nuggets for dinner. Let's see if you're guilty of any of these mistakes. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 2. And on today's podcast, we'll dive into 7 common mistakes that turkey hunters make and how to avoid them so that you can have a better hunting season. And I can really say that I've made a few of these mistakes myself over the years. Let's figure out how to dodge these pitfalls next time you're out in the turkey woods. The first thing is movement. Who knows the number of gobblers who didn't wear a tag home because they caught the movement of a hunter? When you're set up on a turkey, your moves need to be very deliberate and intentional. It's easy to get carried away with snapping your head back and forth and rubbernecking at every sound and looking at every direction, but you've got to think carefully. When did you catch that gobbler coming in? It was probably because you first saw movement as he approached. They're doing the same thing. The one thing that I like to tell my kids is that when we're set up, keep your cheek down on the gun so that it forces you to only use your eyes to look back and forth. This will help a ton to keep your hat bill from dancing all around and grabbing unwanted attention. And if you know that you're having trouble sitting still, consider making a makeshift blind out of some natural materials around you. Snip some nearby branches, stick them into the ground, drag over a few deadfalls to help break up your outline, or use a portable or a half-style blind if you like to run and gun, but you need something extra to hide your movements. Hub blinds are a great choice for setups that don't have much cover available, or for beginners or fidgety kids, or even if you're bow hunting. But whatever it is, do what you can do to keep movement to a minimum. Number 2 is over-calling. Calling too much is probably the biggest mistake any turkey hunter can make. And honestly, who can blame them? Because the sound of that turkey gobble is what gets us out of bed at the worst hours of the night, makes us hike through miles of timber in the morning, and pushes us to our limits. We're crazy about the turkey gobble. I know I'm crazy about hearing turkeys gobble. I love it. But you've got to hold back on loving the sound of your own voice. And it's not hard to do, especially when you get better and when you get more confident in your calling. But too much calling can backfire. It might make a bird chill out, stay put, waiting for you to come in. It could also attract the wrong kind of attention, from another hunter to a real hen or a predator looking for a turkey meal. The more noise you make between you and that tom, the more you might draw in unwanted visitors. But how much noise is too much? Well, I think it depends on the situation. Do you call too much? I once read about a great tool to help you gauge if you are somebody who overcalls, and that's by keeping your eyes on the clock. Pull out your phone or look at your watch and see how often you're tempted to call. When it comes to blind calling, meaning you're just set up in the woods somewhere and you'll call from time to time in hopes that a bird will eventually respond, keep it to 5 minutes or longer between segments. Those 5-minute breaks help you to seem more like a real hen, and those quiet moments in between calling might just be enough to make a gobbler who is sneaking in get anxious about if you're still there and gobble out to you on his own. I think that's a great tip for blind calling. But what about those times when you are engaged with a bird or several birds at once? I think each scenario defines the need, and if birds are vocal, be vocal. If he's quiet and only responds occasionally, do the same. The idea is to match the mouthiness or the reservation of the bird or birds that you're working. A third mistake we can make is getting predictable. Think about it. We can all get into a rut. If something worked once, we think it should work every single time. If we got a positive response from the last scenario, we try to recreate it over and over and over. Getting into a predictable pattern, it could be dangerous to our success. Ask yourself, do I call the same way every time I pull out my favorite slate? Could your hunting buddy confirm that it was you calling just by hearing you out in the woods? Maybe you're guilty of running 5 yelps followed by 4 cuts every single time that you use that pot call. Pay attention to what you're saying and how you're saying it. Don't be predictable. Now, if it works, then go for it. But don't be afraid to change it up a bit. Seldomly, you will hear a hen walk through the woods doing the exact same call sequence all day long as she travels from ridgetop to ridgetop. But what about your travel route as you run a gun? Do you park in the same spot? Walk the same logging road? Set up in the same corner of that field every time you go out? Maybe it works, and if it does, by all means, keep doing it. But if your routine just isn't getting the results that you like anymore, switch it up. Park at a different spot to come in. You might just hear birds on roost in the same area that you couldn't from your familiar spot. Try approaching that gobbler from a different direction than you have before. Get off that logging road, especially on public land. Think about how everybody else has been approaching that tom and from which way he hears the most calling. Try to spice it up and switch things up. Remember, turkeys are often unpredictable, and you should be too. There's a giveaway going on right now, and you're invited to join for free. Just head over to davisfamilyhunts.com and sign up for our newsletter. Once you do that, you'll get a link to enter the giveaway. This is your shot at winning a cool prize package, which includes a really nice personalized box call, perfect for bringing in that next longbeard this spring. Don't wait too long because this chance won't last forever, so make sure you enter today. Again, just go to davisfamilyhunts.com, sign up for our newsletter, use the link to enter the giveaway, and get ready for your chance to win a prize package that can help you succeed in the turkey woods. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, the fourth blunder that turkey hunters can have is impatience. You've probably heard the old adage that patience kills more turkeys. Don't forget that turkeys operate on turkey time. They have no rigid schedule, they have no errands to run, no meetings to think about later in the day. They simply have no place to be except where they want to be in that moment. And you can't force a gobbler's movements. You can't rush him along and get him to gobble if he's not ready to do so. So being patient and slowing down can make a world of difference. So long as you have time to hunt, be there. Best as you can, leave your worries back at the truck. Have an attitude that is ready to just wait and let the turkeys dictate your hunt. That might mean patiently waiting in one spot, especially on days when the woods seem really quiet. I killed a really unique bird with irregular barring on its wings and non-existent barring on its tail fin a few years ago. And it was the first bird that I'd ever shot with a 410, too. But I believe that the key factor in killing that bird was patience. There was no gobbling on the roost that day. It was dead quiet. I was hunting with Dad at the time, and we just decided to set up and stay quiet for a while and just let the morning unfold. And sure enough, as I called for the first time about 90 minutes after fly down, a gobbler answered immediately. But as luck would have it, he also had hens, and we watched him strut out into a fresh plowed field for over an hour before he finally broke and came in towards our setup. When it comes to patience, be willing to stay longer, keep a positive attitude, and I always say that in turkey hunting, things can change in about 30 seconds, so be patient. Number 5 is shooting mishaps. Things can go wrong when it comes to the penultimate moment. You make the shot and the bird flies off untouched. If it hasn't happened to you yet, it will. But here's a few mistakes that keep us from packing that bird out in our vest. Missing a turkey often results in the fact that you don't have your head down on the gun, or you never shoulder your gun right, or you rush your shot in a panic. As a result, you shoot too high, or you shoot left, or you shoot low, or whatever. One way a lot of hunters are reducing their chances of missing is by replacing their old iron sights for a good sight scope, especially a red dot. But these aren't foolproof either. Be sure you carry an extra battery with you at all times, because you never know when you might need it. And though these little batteries will typically last a season or two in your scope, you never want to be without a replacement on hand. You may have left the scope turned on from last weekend's hunt, or it got bumped during your last crawl across that ditch. The point is, never assume everything is going to work out just because you want it to. One solution that's worked really well for me is using a fiber optic front and rear sight setup from Dead Ringer. The rear sight is a rounded halo, and you can only see the front sight if your cheek is on the gun stock. And it's really affordable, and it's made a huge difference in staying on target. I'll leave a link in the description in case you want to check that product out. Another shooting mishap occurs when you're misjudging distance. And it's a good idea to assess the distance of certain objects you'll be using as distance markers while standing up, because it's funny how those distances can be so deceiving when you're hunkered down low against a tree. A small rangefinder can be a good idea too, for open areas such as fields that can be really tough to gauge the distance of something. But one of the things I actually do when taking our kids hunting is I'll place a few sticks out in the field that will mark off the furthest point for a good ethical shot. For us, that's often about 35 yards, and it's helpful to have these pre-marked spots when I'm juggling the excitement of a gobbler coming in, making sure that the kids are prepared to shoot, and usually trying to film the hunt too. So if you have time, set a few sticks out in the open, jam them down in the ground. It can help you know how far your target is away from you. Two other quick mishaps are these: not properly loading your gun and shooting through things that are going to destroy your pattern. First, make sure your gun is loaded. Did you unload it when you were crossing a fence or driving to a new farm during mid-morning? Make sure that it's safely loaded again. Also check that you fully closed the chamber. Make sure that your shell is firmly seated in place. Check it from time to time during the hunt. When you're walking through thick brush, a limb may have caught on the release button. Relax the chamber. If you pull the trigger when that happens, nothing's going to happen. Finally, be aware about what is between you and that gobbler. Just like in bow hunting, it's amazing how a limb or a small sapling can disappear in plain sight when you're zeroed in on that animal. Take a few minutes to make sure you have a few good shooting lanes mentally picked out for when that turkey arrives, and do your best to stick to those pre-approved spots. The sixth mistake that hunters can make is improper setups. And several mistakes can be made here, and I'll point out 3 of the biggest failures turkey hunters face. I'm also going to do them in order of what I feel is the least threatening to the most threatening for your success. So the first blunder is setting up where you can see really far distances. Now, this is okay if you're on a field edge, but in the woods, resist setting up in a creek bottom or on a ridge top where you can see a really great distance. You want that turkey to be in gun range by the time you see him. If he can stand 100 or 200 yards away and see directly to your calling position, he's likely not going to see the hen that he knows he should see, and he's going to lose interest. Or worse yet, just like in mistake number 1, if he has a really long way to travel where he can scan the woods with every step, if he picks up on your movement, you can bet that he's going to exit stage left long before you have him in range. Another blooper you can make during your setup is positioning yourself in a place where turkeys simply do not want to be. I believe there are some areas where turkeys just avoid habitually, and sometimes it's because of barriers between you and the bird. Fences are a big culprit in that game. Though turkeys can just fly over a fence, it's often that they hang up around them as they travel. Know about fences in your area. On the plus side, you can also figure out where turkeys are likely to go through fences. Maybe it's a hole in the fence or part of it that has been removed. So do key in on those areas when you're faced with a fence dilemma. Other barriers can be ditches or creeks, blowdowns, or simply large tangles of vines, multiflora rose, or autumn olive. The key is to keep the approach a gobbler has to take to you as an easy one. This is where it's really important to know the lay of the land. Do your scouting ahead of time and rely on a satellite map to see what might ruin your setup's potential. Finally, I think the biggest setup mistake a hunter can make is plopping down in a panic right when that bird gobbles right out in front of you. And I know that you've been there. I'm guilty of this mistake. It's been a long morning. I'm hot, I'm tired, and the turkeys have had me whipped. In half focus, I just let out a yelp, and a longbeard fires back not 60 yards off the edge of the ridge from me. Instinctively, I sit down at the nearest thing I can rest my back against and get ready, and it's a huge mistake. When you do that, I can almost guarantee 2 things are going to happen. 1, you're going to sit down someplace extremely uncomfortable. You'll be sitting against a branch of thorns, or you'll be sitting on an anthill, or you'll be in a low spot with almost no visibility. And then you feel stuck. You feel like you better not move because he already knows that you're there, and he may be coming in. And in a panic, we think that the bird is going to be running in as fast as possible after we hear that first gobble. But often, that just isn't the case. The best thing to do is just kind of keep your cool, keep quiet, but look around as you assess where the best spot to set up might be. Do you need to back up 15 yards or so to a good tree with a good backdrop? Is where you stand a great spot, but there are two small limbs that need to be clipped real quick? Do what you need to do and do it quietly, but do it quickly. And more often than not, you'll find that you have more time than you think. Remember, by God's design, that gobbler is wanting that hen to come to him. And you're trying to flip the switch and get him to come search you out. He's probably still standing and strutting in the same spot that he answered you from. Avoid these improper setups to keep you in the game. And for number 7, you'll need to sign up for our newsletter to receive a special link to see free bonus content for the members of our Insider page, a portion of our website. Subscribing to our newsletter is free, and you can easily find a link in the notes for this podcast, or simply go to davisfamilyhunts.com, and you can sign up to receive our newsletter right on the homepage. Following your sign up, you'll receive a link to access insider content from this episode and more, all for free. I hope you found these tips helpful and that you'll keep them in mind next time that you're headed to the turkey woods. When we learn from mistakes, it makes the pursuit all the better in the future. When I think about all the blunders that I've made in the turkey woods, I can't help but think of all the mistakes that I've made through life too. And one thing that I'm grateful for is that we have a God who loves us despite our mistakes, and that's a good thing, because I know that I'm prone to make a lot of them. I'm encouraged by a verse in 1 John chapter 1, verse 9 that says, "But if we confess our sins to him, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all wickedness." This verse gives me comfort to believe that all sins are forgiven in Christ. My mistakes aren't held against me if I give them over to Jesus. Whether you're at your best or at your worst, God's grace is there to cover up all your mistakes. It doesn't make sense, and you won't understand it. But what a beautiful truth for those of us who struggle to do the right thing all the time. I hope you know the love of God and it encourages you too. I appreciate you tuning in to today's episode. Don't forget that I'd like to receive any turkey hunting related questions that you might have for me too. So if you want to submit a question to be answered on my podcast, I encourage you to use the podcast tab and leave a recorded message for me there on our website. We'll select a question to cover during a future show, and if we use your question in the show, we'll send you a small gift pack, which will include some stickers and some special items for your next hunt. I hope to reconnect with you next Turkey Tuesday for another episode release, and in the meantime, if you want to check out our YouTube channel, Davis Family Hunts, that would be great. We've got everything from the sounds that turkeys make to our fun turkey hunting trips with the kids, and we'd really love for you to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of our turkey hunting videos. Plus, it'd be cool if you'd follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Davis Family Hunts on either app to keep up with what we're doing, and we'd love to chat with you there. And don't forget, you can also visit our website, davisfamilyhunts.com, where I'll share links in the description for you. Whether you're into turkey hunting or just looking to deepen your relationship with Jesus Christ, the more you know and apply, the better you'll get. The more you get the hang of it, the more fun it becomes. And I hope you have a blast enjoying your time outdoors, whether you're hunting turkeys or just spending time with God. The pursuit is wild. Never stop learning.